What do we say to the old adage of leaving well enough alone? Not today. Today's video is brought to you by NordPass's End of Winter Sale. From now until February 25th, you can take 70% off a 2-year subscription and get an extra month on the house. NordPass makes managing your online passwords a breeze with their user-friendly desktop and mobile applications. It allows you to access all of your passwords on any device from wherever you are. And with NordPass's zero-knowledge architecture, your data is encrypted on your own device before it ever reaches their servers. Visit nordpass.com/craft today to take advantage of this limited-time offer. That's nordpass.com/craft. Welcome back to Craft Computing, everyone. As always, I'm Jeff. So, how much memory is too much memory to put into one system? My favorite answer to that is never enough. But on the table right here is my old streaming rig. It has a Core i7-7820X, 8-core 16-threaded CPU, and a paltry 32 gigabytes of RAM. Now this system does have a pretty good kit of memory inside. You can tell from the RGB. It's an ADATA XPG kit of 3200 MHz cast latency 16. But if I wanted to upgrade this memory and stay at the same speed or even faster, that's usually going to cost you a pretty penny. For example, swapping out these 4 8GB sticks for 4 16GB sticks and upgrading from 3200 MHz to 3600 MHz is going to cost you around $350 today on Amazon. If you decide to forego the RGB, you can drop that down to about $320. Now that's obviously for a name brand kit of memory from someone like ADATA or Corsair. But what about these smaller brands that have been popping up on Amazon lately, like Owl? Well, everyone, in my hands and on the table in front of me is not just 64 gigabytes of memory, it's actually 128 gigabytes of memory, 3600 megahertz at cast latency 18, and this kit only ran me $440. Now this is from OLOy, this is the Owl memory series, and these are 2 16 gigabyte sticks inside each of these kits, and I've got 4 of them. Now, I know they'll probably work, but will they pass memory testing? Are you actually getting 3600 megahertz speed? And can we dial that latency down to maybe cast 16 and make this a very competitive kit? Let's find out. Again, just for a quick comparison, the memory in here is running in quad channel at 3200 megahertz at cast latency 16, and we're looking at an overall bandwidth of 81,655 megabytes per second. The overall latency on this kit is just 67.9 nanoseconds, and that's based on the cast latency of 16. Now, typically, the smaller this number is, the faster your memory and the more responsive, a la less latency that you have in a memory kit. However, it's an inverse relationship with the frequency of the memory. That is, the faster the memory clock, the more responsive your memory kit might be. That's kind of a long way of saying a 3200 MHz cast 16 kit may be actually less responsive than a 3600 MHz kit running at cast latency 18. But there's only one way to test that, so what do you say we get this overkill upgrade underway? Alright, 128 gigabytes of memory, and for those who are keeping track, that's actually 131,072 megabytes. So we posted just fine at the stock DDR4 speed of 2133, but that's definitely not why we're here. Let's go ahead and just go for broke, turn on XMP, and see what happens. And survey says we got a post, or at least I got a black screen. Is it gonna post? We got a post. All right, let's get into Windows and take these things for a spin. Now, full disclosure, I did not buy this 128 gigabyte kit to put into this X99 system. That is, unless I scored like a 10980XE CPU or something. You know, a processor actually worthy of this much memory. I actually bought this memory for my EPYC 7601 system for the cloud gaming server. That is, before I realized you needed to buy registered ECC memory, not non-registered non-ECC memory for an EPYC system. I know that now. But rather than return it to Amazon, I figured I could use an 8-channel kit of DDR4 at some point, whether I get a server system down the line, or now that WRX80 for Threadripper Pro is a thing, maybe a 3995WX with 8 channels of 128 gigabyte 3600 megahertz RAM? But at any rate, let's go ahead and take a look at this memory kit on this lowly X299 motherboard with only 8 cores and 16 threads. And right off the bat, you can see my first worry is not founded. You can see we are running at 3600 megahertz at CAS 18, 22, 22, 42. So definitely not the tightest memory timing in the world, but for 8 sticks at 128 gigabytes, 3600 megahertz, I will certainly take those numbers. So on paper, this Owl memory series does have the horsepower, and according to hardware info, it is running at the proper speeds. But will it hold up to Ida64's memory test? That's another question entirely. If my memory serves, the score to beat is 81,566 megabytes per second read speed on this 3200 megahertz kit of ADATA RAM. Now, if we are actually running at 3600 megahertz, we should beat those scores hands down. We're also shooting for a latency of less than 67.9 nanoseconds. So let's see how the Owl memory fares. Let me just say first off, those are some very impressive scores. All right, I'm looking at the previous results now, and well, I was wrong slightly, kinda. I just reversed a couple numbers in my head. It was 81,655 megabytes per second. But we handily beat that at 87,163 megabytes per second. That's a difference of just over 5,500 megabytes per second in read speed, meaning that we are definitely running at the rated 3600 megahertz, and this memory is holding up to benchmarks. What's really interesting is the massive jump in the copy speed from 68,819 all the way up to 85,886 megabytes per second. We did suffer a little bit in our latency, going down 11 nanoseconds from 67.9 to 78.7. However, I am going to try to tighten the timings on this memory kit just a little bit. And that may be easier said than done since I'm running quad channel memory and in dual rank with a total of 8 sticks. Usually the more variables you introduce, the less timing you can get back out of your memory. But we're certainly going to try. So let's go ahead and reboot this system, and what do you say we just aim for CAS 16 right out of the gate? On the system, I'm using an MSI MEG X299 Creation motherboard, which is a $600 motherboard. So if we're going to be able to overclock on anything, this is probably the platform to do it. So we're going to go to Advanced DRAM Configuration. All right, 18, 22, 22, 42 for the base settings. You know, let's try it. 16, 18, 18. We'll do 38. Let's see if this thing will even post. Seems to be trying. I can kind of see the post LEDs from in here. Thanks, Meshify. Nah, I think we're boot looping. Oh, wait. I think we posted. We did. We posted. Oh, because it reverted back to defaults. Okay. That makes sense. Darn, I thought we had it. I think 16's not gonna be doable, but let's give it another couple shots. Let's try that. 17, 20, 20, 40. I know it's a weird timing, but let's try. I love that you guys can see the post LEDs better than I can. Well, we got a post. That was faster than last time, but did those settings stick? Yes. Maybe. Let's get into hardware info and let's see if we got something here. Well, I think we have our answer. All right, well, I get points for trying, right? So it really wanted to, it really thought about it. But I think that's just a no-go. However, I wonder if we can get, let's try bumping up just the straight up frequency a little bit. Let's go for 3800. I'm feeling lucky. Probably won't be. Not going to try to give this memory any additional voltage. Typically, if you're running 128 gigs of RAM, you're doing simulations, you're doing renderings, you're doing CAD work. There's not a lot of wiggle room for extra performance versus stability. And so I don't recommend you go out and overclock a 128 gigabyte kit of memory. But it's really fun to try. All right, we're into Windows. Let's see what we got. And the survey says 1900 megahertz, that's 3800 megahertz by my book. And I think that means we get to test it. All right, will we actually see an improvement? And will the system crash? It's a great question. Let's find out. To my eye, we are slightly faster across the board, and our latency went down, not a whole lot, only 3 nanoseconds, but that's a measurable difference nonetheless. Now, obviously we would need some long-term stability testing to make sure that we could actually hold at 3800 megahertz, but with a lot of these kits that I test, where they're kind of the bleeding edge of performance, there's not a lot of wiggle room to get more out of it. If a kit is rated for 3600 CAS 16 or even CAS 18, that's usually all you can get. I'm surprised we got this thing to even post at 3800, let alone we're able to benchmark it. I gotta say, I am a little bit surprised. Typically on some less expensive kits like this, remember, this is right around 60% the cost of a name brand kit for 128 gigs at 3600 megahertz. I didn't expect this to be so plug and play, to pop it into my motherboard, enable XMP, and be off to the races. A lot of times some of these off-brand kits, they'll advertise certain speeds, but they're really not obtainable unless you have golden samples of them. In this is a quad-channel kit running in dual rank that runs not only at the rated 3600 megahertz CAS 18, but I was able to get a couple hundred extra megahertz out of it. I'm impressed. Now, when I bought this kit, they were $110 for a 2-stick kit. That is 2 16GB sticks. I bought 4 of them for a total of $440 for 128 gigs. Now, the memory prices have gone up ever so slightly since I bought this kit. They're now running a little bit closer to the $135 mark, but that still makes them one of the cheapest kits that you can buy. When it comes to system memory, it is very rare that I will tell you to go with the cheaper option, unless you're just ditching the RGB. But in this case, I would say save yourself the $30, $40, $50 on a kit of memory and go with the Owls. The performance is absolutely there. They do benchmark, they seem to be stable, and you'll save quite a bit of money, especially if you're looking to get 128 gigabytes or more into your current system. If you're interested in picking up an OLOy Owl set of DDR4 memory, stupid name but great kit, click the Amazon link down in the video description. On your way down there, make sure to drop this video a like and subscribe to Craft Computing if you haven't done so already. Follow me on Twitter at Craft Computing, and if you like the content you see on this channel and want to help support me in what I do, like buying $500 in memory that I don't have a use for, think about joining the Patreon or Float Plane. Links are both down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you can chat with myself and join the ever-growing community over there. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys. Beer for today I did not know existed, and I am really excited to try this one. So this is from, what is it, Iron Horse Brewery? Yeah, Iron Horse Brewery, Ellensberg, Washington. Probably what these guys are best known for is Quilter's Irish Death, which is an Irish ale and absolutely fantastic. This is Mocha Death, and I'm just gonna read the can before I start here. Mocha Death is what happens when you take a Pacific Northwest favorite, coffee, chocolate, and Irish Death, and combine them into one delicious malt-forward ale. Moderately sweet with low bitterness, this brew is for those who can't decide between coffee or beer. We say, why choose? Yeah. This is a pretty good coffee flavor, but I wish it was just a little bit roastier. Like I said, it's a very creamy, very malt-forward. It's not too bitter and not too sweet. Honestly, I could have used the vacuuming to waited another 20 minutes. Screw it, this is the beer review. You guys can listen to the vacuum. I'm really glad they didn't go, Starbucks candy with it. But I could use just a little bit more definition in the coffee. It's good, but I feel like I'm wanting just a little bit more. Final thoughts on the beer? You can definitely tell it comes from Quilter's Irish Death. Very reminiscent of that brew, obviously because it's the base of this brew. I could have used more coffee. The smell on this is really good and lulls you into going, oh, this is gonna be a fantastic cold brew. Honestly, the more I drink it, the less pronounced the coffee and the cocoa become. And I think they were trying to fight that balance between appeasing the coffee drinkers, but still appeasing the beer drinkers. And I think they fell a little bit further off towards the brown ale beer drinkers. It's malty, it's good, but it's not quite as bold as I was looking for.